I try to feel. I just try to feel. I feel like there's quick and slow thinking. If you just sometimes you have an idea of like I don't know why, but that feels good. I think I need to go there or whatever, and that's that quick thinking. And then afterwards, you're just finding reasons to do why you decided that. And that slow thinking, sometimes you need to conceptualize something in your brain and give it time to materialize. Like, where do I want to be? What do I what my career to look like? That's not, you can't do that with quick thinking. And some people are better at one, some people are better at the other, and you need to find your own mix of decision making.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Today's guest is warm, down to earth, and a great conversationalist. It was an absolute treat. There are so many highlights from this chat, but one of the many that spring to mind is Isha's desire to feel his emotions and do the work needed for his growth, not only professionally, but also personally. It was beautiful to hear. Anyway, I love this chat, and I think you will too. So let's get into it and officially introduce Isha to the podcast. Isha Blaaker is an actor and model and has just made his big screen debut in Oscar-nominated filmmaker Ava DuVernay's highly anticipated film feature, Origin, based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning author Isabel Wilkerson's 2020 bestselling book, Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents. And I believe it is now out, so check it out. On the television front, Isha most recently starred in debut roles for Season 2 of Run the World, and also opposite Colman Dolmingo in the 8th season and final season of Fear the Walking Dead. He's also well known for his role in the 12th film in Tyler Perry's iconic franchise, A Madea Homecoming. Before Isha landed his breakout role in a feature Netflix film, he honed his craft with a handful of reoccurring appearances, appearing on the Emmy-nominated HBO Max series The Flight Attendant, opposite Kaley Cuoco, as well as Red Riding Hoods and DNA in the Netherlands. He was also scouted by an American modeling agency to come and work in New York City, and throughout the past few years he's worked with some of the biggest brands and names around the world. As his name continues to become more well known in fashion, Isha developed a love for acting and began taking classes and studying the craft professionally for 4 years prior to booking back-to-back roles in TV and film. He now credits acting as his true passion and a daily commitment next to modeling. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about competitive martial arts, being the king of accents, long-term success mindset, modeling, his nickname, the charming boxer, hustle, his new movie, plus plenty more. Before we get into this chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out every Monday at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, with the video to follow the following day. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's epic episode. Oh, actually, I think we'll start here. I heard your nickname is the Charming Boxer.
Oh,
I would
God.
love to hear a bit about how you got this nickname.
Well,
How do you ask that? I know. I put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
So I've been modeling for a long time, which is a very big help in financing my acting training and career. Before acting, I was also very much into martial arts, even before modeling, and I competed at a national level back home. I placed first in the nationals a couple times. And at some point, I kickboxed as well. I had a couple fights. The level of it, I'd say, was semi-pro, but my coach was a female coach. I don't actually remember exactly where the name started. I don't know if it's for whatever reason, the guys that fought for her were fairly good looking. I don't know why nobody noticed besides the other team one day saying, why did you all have all these good looking guys?
Yeah.
Alluding to that there might be some other reason, which there wasn't. It might have come from that. Or I think one of my modeling agents tried to find some way to market me and said, I don't either.
That's
They
brilliant.
brought it up like that, or it was my coach who said it back in the day. I don't know. It was the combination of the two.
It is a great marketing ploy or tool to be called the charming boxer, because as soon as I saw them, like, that caught my eye. And modeling and boxing and kickboxing, and you did karate. That's I think that's get your name out there, certainly, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I'm not that much of a boxer. Kickboxing, karate, yes, but boxing, it's slight nuance, but don't worry about it. But no, like, I went to a kickboxing gym and whooped everybody's ass besides the boxer, and then he whooped my ass.
Fair enough.
But what I'm trying to say is that's that's a long time ago. I haven't trained like that in a long time.
I still think it's very interesting to your story, which we'll get into. I thought of like 1,000 questions where this could go, because it's definitely probably helped with your acting career as well. But I want to ask the stupidest question first. If you're doing kickboxing at, you said, a semi-pro level, and I know that you also do karate, and you said you were number one. As a model, because you were modeling, I think there was overlap at some point. Wouldn't you be worried about taking hits as well?
You read other interviews.
I've read everything.
Yeah, my mom graciously asked me to stop when I started modeling because it was not professional. I remember the first modeling thing I booked. It was really small, and I was doing MMA at the time, and she's like, "Can you stop? Can you stop?" I'm like, "No, I love it. I like it. Blah 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 blah. It's not so bad." And then I had like an overnight casting. I had to be. I got booked a job like the next day, but I had all these scratches from the Velcro on my face.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my mom was like, "You're gonna go to the big department store, like our version of Macy's, and you're gonna go to the part where the ladies do makeup, and you're gonna tell them to fix your face." I'm like, "That's what? Hilarious. Yes. Here's money. Go fix your face." I was like, "Oh man," I was 23 at the time, and I went there. I was like, "Hello, my mom asked me to tell you to put makeup on my face." She's like, "Okay, like, yeah, can you fix that?" "Okay, cool. Just you want this," which was, I don't know, some foundation type thing. And she was like, "Can you put it on?" "Okay, sit down." I'm like, "Can we do it in the back?" and then we did, and I came out, and I was like, "Oh wow, you really don't see anything." Like, I get why women wear it, Yeah. It works. And I went to the shoot, and to my luck, there was no makeup artist. It was very like makeshift outside.
Oh, cool.
Just show up. So I just showed up, lucked out. But it was a lesson of like, hey, if you want to do this, you got to be professional about it.
So how would that be received if you were to go in with maybe a black eye or anything? Would they just say you're not doing the shoot for the day, or is it seen as
Well, funnily enough, that particular shoot, it would have been a problem because there was no makeup artist. It was very small, and it would have been very unprofessional. She would have not have been able to work with me. They might have been able to edit it out, but it's hard. Had there been a makeup artist and it was in a studio or something, she might have been able to fix it, but there would have definitely been a message back home. And yeah, it's just, I have a lot. I know a lot of guys that still do it. I don't know how. I know guys that professionally fight as models. yeah, I don't know how. I don't know. I know one guy that has a darker complexion, so it's harder to show up that way. You get less scratches and whatever from kickboxing. You get it more from the Velcro and MMA. So I don't know. It just at some point I was kind of done. I had injuries as well, and the competitive aspect wasn't there.
Oh, you lost
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So that moment, I kind of stopped with everything at some point
Yeah.
around that time. And then later on, I got an opportunity to kickbox because I had no money and I needed to make money to eat. So I just, said, I'll jump in the ring and maybe I can make some money that way. And I got to live out that dream. And that's when I really left it behind me.
Oh, cool. And from before, I'm very intrigued. I would imagine it would make you a better kickboxer or when you're doing karate, for example, because you don't want to take any hits. So were you very like conscious, like not the face, you can take the ribs, you can take the stomach, or once you're in the ring, you don't care about that stuff, you're going out there to win?
I think you actually get hit more when you go in the ring thinking about that.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, your attention should be on the other person more. If it's you're thinking like how do you call it? Like a dartboard.
Ah,
Or
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
you're thinking like a target so instead of thinking how can I penetrate the other person's defenses or
Ah, gotcha.
bypass.
Yeah. It's already like a sign of weakness and then you might lose the fight if you're going in
Yeah.
there. It's very interesting. And also, what I found so interesting is, you're doing modeling, you're a pro. I know you said semi-pro, but being like the top karate champion at that age group. But you also were doing, I think you got your master's in consultancy as well. So there was obviously a lot going through. Was this all at the same time?
Um, Full contact karate started at 8. I think around 22, 23, switched to modeling. Started studying when I was 19, I think, and I took a lot more years in my
Oh, we,
study
we've
time
we've all
to
done
travel,
that. Yeah,
to
we've all done that.
travel and explore the world and all that, and to compete and to do everything next to it. And at 26, I was abroad. I didn't make money. I got an opportunity to kickbox, did that. When I graduated, I said, I just want a full-time model. Did that for a year or two. And then I said, I need a new challenge. And then acting got added to that. And then I was able to funnel all the modeling income, connections, lessons into acting. And that helped me to progress faster as an actor in acting classes than my peers.
I have 1,000 questions. I want to type a few points because I think it's really interesting of how you get into acting. What were you thinking along the way? Because you mentioned, which we've all had this in moments, and some people have a lot more than others, but you mentioned that there were a few money issues along the way. And so, going from modeling, I know that you've been a professional for a while, but I'm sure there's, highs and lows like there is with acting as well. Kickboxing, you don't want to do it all the time, it sounds like, and I can understand why. What kept you going? While you're doing modeling, kickboxing, there's not that much funds potentially coming in all the time. Did you have a clear goal in that moment of what you wanted to do, or you just kind of like going with the flow of life?
I always wanted to be the best fighter in the world, and that wasn't meant for me. I had injuries at some point, and yeah, it just wasn't for me. By the time I kickboxed, I had already severe injuries, so sadly that wasn't for me, I guess. Yeah, modeling. I also wanted to be the best model in the world, and I some point learned that you have to be white for that. And then I wanted to be the best black model in the world. But then I learned that maybe you have to start earlier for that, or I don't know. Yeah, I still had a great career. I
Mm.
still have a great
Still,
career,
yeah.
and it's now going into a new level because of acting,
Oh, good for
which
you.
is great. Um, I don't know. I just have this drive. I just always want to be the best, and I think I have a deep yearning for acknowledgement and taking care of my family.
I love that. I want to know more about this drive because it's one thing to want to be the best in one regard, which not many people have aspirations like that. And I think it's brilliant. But you also had two. So where did this drive come from, let's say, from the martial arts side? Do you know where it came from, or you just knew at that stage this is I'm doing this, so therefore I want to be the best that I can be and potentially in the world?
My mom always pushed me to go further than I could with
Nice.
everything. With love. She's like, I love you regardless, but go higher. And I think my dad, I've just been pursuing a type of acknowledgement from my father. I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's very cool. If you want to speak about it, because I know that your mum raised you, and I think your brother, and it sounds like there was some like tough times, but no matter what, through the tough times, your mum was always like a compass for you in terms of like steering you on track and being an amazing support system, which sounds phenomenal. Was she kind of like the one that kind of like kept you like going forward to like think higher and like be better in that sense?
Yeah, I honestly don't know how my mom did it.
Yeah.
We never had any shortcomings at home, my brother and I. Um, Even though we saw her go through very tough times. We at some point had no money and like I don't know. It's maybe not my story to tell, but
Okay.
we had financial troubles, seriously. But we never missed anything because of my mom. And now that I'm an adult, I'm like, I have no idea how she managed, how you raise two sons that eat like there's no tomorrow and go to school and are boys and rugrats, and they grow up being well mannered or being hungry to succeed and doing all these things. I don't know. I don't know. It's magic, I guess.
The reason I bring it up, and you go as deep or wherever direction you want, I think it's phenomenal. I always ask like people what their role model, who their role models were, or some of their teachers, and I know you've had a few along the way, but I think it's like phenomenal given that story that you've just said, that sometimes when we're going through challenges in life, especially as a young adult, we can go towards a more negative direction and maybe get into trouble with the law, and we see this all the time, and you know trying to get extra money, support the family. But it is phenomenal to hear that you and your brother, for example, that that you've got a good head on your shoulders and that you've got drive and that it's all about family and how you acknowledge your mum. That's not common, and I think it's phenomenal to like come back to that and learn and grow from situations I know is very tough. And I just think it's brilliant that you can like kind of see the actually, I have a quote and it will summarize what I'm saying. We went through some pretty tough times at home, but after you've shed all your tears, all that remains is laughter. You just have to make the best of things. Sunshine really does come after the rain. And that was a quote by you. And I thought that was phenomenal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
I said that.
Yeah, you did a few years ago. And I think that's
Oh,
very
wow.
like wise and mature, and there's no judgment whatsoever. But when we go through tough times, we all do this, I do this, we can play the victim mode. But it sounds like throughout your life, and we'll get into it, especially from the acting side, that, despite some challenges, that you've been able to like kind of like shift your mentality. And I think that's why you've been able to thrive in so many different like modalities and careers. Am I hearing that correct? Is it something you think about?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, my brother also finished one of the most difficult educations in the country, and
Nice.
is phenomenal at a couple of other things that I would only dream of being phenomenal at. And so with my other siblings, but so I just think a good household means a lot.
Nice. And then in terms from the acting side, you said that you were able to, I think for at least a year, you went to acting classes and you had the modeling side to kind of help you going there. And once you decided you wanted to do acting, you went 100%. Did I read that correctly?
Well, I still take acting classes or work with coaches, and
Nice.
I don't think that should end.
Agreed.
Um, yeah, so it's been 8 years, I think 7 years.
And
Yeah.
you may have said it before, but what actually drew you towards acting? Because it is different to, professional, like martial arts, for example.
I think acting is a beautiful art form It has a physical capacity, a component to it. It has a mental, psychological component to it. You study people, you study yourself. It is emotional, which I found out later on, which I think is beautiful to be able to have a place where you can put all that out. I think more people should have or find that place. It's
Agreed.
competitive. Um, if done at a good level, you can make good money with it. You can also be out of it in 2 seconds. Um, but that's the job aspect of it. If you really love acting, you can take a good piece of material and go perform it to the best of your capacity on Times Square. So the question is it really about acting or is it about the industry around it? But the whole thing altogether is, I think, a beautiful thing to commit to.
Agreed. And you said that so like a poet. Was acting ever at the forefront of your mind when you were growing up, or was it something you discovered a bit later on?
No, actually, it seemed like a cool thing, maybe, but there was just this thought that if you become an actor, you're gonna go broke. I don't know. So
I get that.
yeah. So you don't even like say that to your mom unless you're ready to do battle of like this is your need and you need to become an actor. So it was just like no. But acting back home, the industry is completely different than it is here.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, it's way smaller.
I
So I grew up in the Netherlands, and that I think it has approximately the same amount of inhabitants. How do you call it? People as New York.
okay.
But it's the size of the state of Maine. So you know what I mean. The industry itself is a lot smaller. Here,
Yeah.
there's everything high
And
and low.
and why New York and not LA? That's just the famous question.
From my understanding, you come to New York to train, and you go to LA to be famous. So training in New York is on a different level, and LA is on a different level for networking and being there, where you get to meet people that can then say, "Oh, come hang out," or "I like you, be in my next project," and further your career that way.
Well, I like that you started in New York because, you need to have a strong base. And you've gone, especially when you were first starting, you went 100% to study acting. And some people that might not have a long-term outlook like you, they might just go, I'm going to go to LA and be famous. But, which you'll talk to, but you have that understanding and wisdom that, you need to go and study, you need to go and learn so that you can do this for the long haul.
There used to be a saying at the studio where I trained at that actors go to LA to die. And that sounds really
Yes.
like I mean it funny in a way,
No, no,
but I
I know
don't.
exactly what you
And
mean. Yeah.
you could also take it as a morbid joke, which I also don't mean it that way. It's more like that elephant graveyard in The Lion King. It's like unless you're called to go there, don't just go there because it's harder to get your feet off the ground. But if you're maybe a good networker or you feel that you have other opportunities there, then hey, go pursue it. My beliefs should not limit you.
Agreed. I like that. It's an individual journey. So can you tell me when you moved to, I think you got representation in New York. Was it through modeling that led you to New York?
Yeah, I graduated, got my master's, and I said I'm gonna do modeling full time. Traveled through Europe, trying to get foot on the ground in different countries so I could get jobs from there. And I think after the summer, I got scouted to come work in New York. And yeah, I came to New York to work for Soul Artist Management, which is my modeling agency till this day. And yeah, that's why I'm here.
And just springs to mind. I would imagine I've had quite a few models on the podcast. People would think that modeling would help with acting in terms of being in front of a camera. I don't think that's necessarily true. Yeah, but it would help you in terms of the business side. And yes, I can see there's a light bulb moment. So what has helped you from the modeling side to the acting side?
It's a smaller industry. has no union. So it almost feels like you go through a similar career as you can go in the acting industry, the film industry, but in a shorter time frame. So it's almost like you've been through a whole career, you know. You learn the business side of it. You learn how to deal with agents. You learn how to deal with your money, save up, know that it's not always going to be there. You need to have your own savings, investing in different markets. You need to know all the fine details of your craft so that then it's almost like once you know it, you can coast off of your skills. I would compare acting to chess, modeling to checkers. You know, checkers is very quickly it's very easy to understand, but then it's about how you play the game, and chess has more intricate, difficult moves. Yeah, so the better you figure it out, the better you play, and the further you go.
That's a brilliant. I've never heard that before, ever. I love it. The strategic thinking, because, we talk about, for example, actors wanting to be in it for the long haul, but it sounds like also through potentially your business learnings that you see it in a different lens of like strategic. So are you quite a strategic person in when you're like deciding what to do or how to approach it? Or is it just like inbuilt in you, ingrained through the many years you've been doing this?
I hope so. Yeah, I just understood very quickly that if you don't have a long-term mindset and if you don't have different strategies, long-term, short-term, mid-term, you're not going to move the needle.
Yep.
And that's so much more so in the acting, the film industry.
How have you been able to like work on your goals? Have you had people help you? Like what does a goal look like for you? How do you like decide how you want to go about it?
I mostly look at the things that I can control, because
Very
there's so
smart.
many. Yeah, there's a lot of uncontrollables in this industry, and what that is, it's the acting side of it. I got an amazing agent and an amazing manager, and then I realized how much they have a say over my career, and I'm like, oh, this is new in this industry, So I had to redefine how I look at my career, and it just kind of felt as if now I have a company and there's three shareholders, and one is in charge of public relations, which is getting the auditions, and the other is in charge of managing how everybody communicates together, and maybe how the company grows further inside the industry, and I am the one who's in charge of the skill development, and then there's also a CEO, which is me, who makes all the final decisions. But that's kind of what it has become. Your company.
That's such also a refreshing, unique take, because people just think an actor goes out and does acting stuff, or a model just doesn't modeling stuff. But in particular, from the acting side, you have a team and you have to work with that team. And that could be a little bit scary, especially at the start, because you realize, one, you can barely control anything, but then you lose a little bit more control in the sense of you might think at the very start, oh, this person's making me do this, or I have to do this. And, it sounds like you realize that we're all on the same team to work together. But I know that if I was first starting, I would feel like quite, oh my God, I can't do anything. I have no control, and it would cause me madness. So you've obviously gone, yeah, to go on.
Yeah, it's weird because what I found weird, and I think that's where I started thinking about it differently, is that you start working with these professionals that have been in it for a longer time or have more experience than you do when you come into it. But they will take responsibility for certain things and almost charge on certain things, but sometimes they'll give you responsibility as well. They're like, hey, we don't want to make that choice for you. You make that choice. I'm like, wait, what? Which one is it? Are you in charge or not? Am I in charge? Who works for who? And are we all working together? So But as you go on, you realize, okay, this is my part, that's their part, and we're all trying to do it together.
I would imagine, I don't know if you ever think about it this way. Do you like follow your gut, your intuition in terms of this feels right, I'm going to pursue this, or I don't, or you're more logical in the sense of this is what's presented and let's chat with the team?
I try to feel.
Go on.
I just try to feel. I feel like there's quick and slow thinking. If you just sometimes you have an idea of like, I don't know why, but that feels good. I think I need to, go there or whatever. And that's that quick thinking. And then afterwards, you're just finding reasons to do why you decided that. And that slow thinking, sometimes you need to conceptualize something in your brain and give it time to materialize. Like, where do I want to be? What my career to look like? You can't do that with quick thinking. And some people are better at one, some people are better at the other, and you need to find your own mix of decision making.
I agree. I'm of the belief for me that I need to rely more on my intuition, because sometimes, that doesn't feel right. You don't know why. Then a few months later, like the example I gave you with the screenwriting, you're like, that's why. And I'm also working on this theory that doing professional sports, you would have to work on your intuition more than the average person. And I would think that would also really help you in your career and life as well. Have you noticed that?
I don't know. I hear what you're saying. I don't know if that's muscle memory or intuition.
Oh, nice.
I'm assuming it's both. I think I once read or heard that a punch goes faster than the eye can catch. So in other words, you might be looking at your opponent ready for whatever's to come, and you might be very good at slipping and dodging punches, but that punch will still be faster than your eyes, so you'll never catch it on time. So what you look for is the shoulders in your opponent, so you can roll away, or so is that intuition or is that muscle memory?
We could speak about that for ages, but I feel like it's taught you of what you need to look out for, whether that's like from within yourself or from an external environment. It still works in your favor, as I would hope as well. And,
Yeah, I hear you.
so I find this so interesting because you've done so many different things and you've thrived in so many different things. You've moved to New York, you've got representation, you're now deciding to do acting. You go in, you do a whole bunch of classes. I think you're known as the accent king as well. At that stage, were you
Wait, whoa. I got to call my accent coach on this one. Why did that happen?
I've heard enough and heard you and how you apply your craft of learning accents that whether I heard it or I've made it up, you're the accent king, and you can tell your accent coach that. I didn't expect that reaction.
Fuck me, man. Thank you. That's a beautiful compliment. Oh my God. And I'm counting all the mistakes and everything that I've done. I'm like, oh man, I need to get it to the next level.
I think you're at a very high level.
Oh, thank you. I did another podcast with one of my teachers, Charlie Sandlin, and it's going to come out tomorrow. And not to plug anybody else's podcast.
No. I plug away all the podcast. I want to actually. Sorry, I enjoy that. This is not the only podcast that people can listen to. Obviously, I want people to get a diversity of thought and thinking. So, plug away and continue what you were saying.
Okay, so I had a podcast with my teacher, and he asked these amazing questions because he'd seen me in class for 2 years straight and whatever. It was a big honor for me to be on it, after having studied with him for so long, and not every student makes it, on that podcast. So that was beautiful. And me being all nervous, like right before, like, I'm like, okay, like I like to take cold showers in the morning. So but it was a bit later and I was like working on the thing and whatever. And then I was like, let me go take that cold shower. And I come out of it and I'm just shivering going into this podcast, and it's like, oh man, and you're sitting face to face. You can't be like putting on a sweater and still talking to him. So my jaw was all kind of like, clenched up, and I sound really weird, and I'm trying to overdo it, and I'm like, oh my God. And yeah, I don't know. Just thank you. That was a beautiful compliment.
No, well, you deserve it. It's well deserved. So you've moved to New York. You're working on accents. I believe at the time, you can correct me if I'm wrong, English isn't your first language because you speak at least 5 languages. Is that correct?
English is not my first language.
Oh,
Dutch
still.
is my.
Oh, wow.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, how I see like first language is because you've obviously been working in the craft, you live in New York, that it might overtake the Dutch, but especially at that side. But I guess when you say your first language, you mean the first language that you grew up with learning. But
yeah, I will say English things in Dutch, and people will look at me as if I'm just as if they're seeing water burning, and that might also be a Dutch expression. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it happens in English as well. I just, for instance, I typed to my PR team. They said something, and I was like, "Yay!" But instead of "yay," I typed Jay.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for years. And then they were like, "Oh, now we get why you've been celebrating Jay for years." I don't know. Or, it's like, I don't know, being an immigrant, I guess.
I understand it. I think it's even more interesting that you're pursuing acting, which is, English is generally the number, well, in all of Hollywood and New York and LA, English is the spoken language. Obviously, you're very capable of it, and you're now fluent as you can be. But to even have that kind of like courage to not only pursue something that's not necessarily in your native tongue, but to go 10 steps further and look to master so many different accents. I would love to know, why did you decide to do that?
Well, my college was in English, though, my whole program, so that made it easier, and there was some training there as well. And I always had a knack for languages, but as an actor, I figured out that you need to have certain things that they can use to market you, and the more of those things you have, the easier it is for your agents to get you out there. And I have a knack for languages, and I thought, how about I start getting these accents down? It started with the American one, which I'm still working on to this day. But at some point, I was able to add other ones to it. Also because I have a coach who's done amazing things for me, Audrey Lacrone, and that facilitates that. But it just allows for more work.
But it's still like, you could be, and I know you're not this type of person, you've just moved to New York. I don't know how many people you know. It could be a bit scary or daunting. You don't have your family there. And not only are you going like 100% into the field, you're going up and beyond of what is, inverted commas, expected of you. You could just do, you could just be you, for example, but then you're also doing the American. And I know you've done various different accents in other crafts, and you've probably learned even more that you haven't even been able to explore on screen. I just think it's brilliant that you've been able to, you had that kind of like knowing and mindset, and despite potentially some nerves of, I'm in New York, how am I going to do this? You still did it, and you went up and beyond. Was it just like, I'm doing acting, I'm going to go 100%, this is what I need to do? What were you kind of thinking at the time?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yes. I don't know. Why do something half? Like, I signed up for it, might as well commit myself to it. But, yeah, I have the time for it, and the ability to, and the skill set, and I might have competitive advantages in this industry. Why not? Also, I went to see a play once, and I had this conversation with one of my teachers. There was a man in that play, an actor who was how do you call it? Like a stereotypical, not stereotypical, like leading man type figure. Everybody had a physicality in the play. He didn't. Or I don't remember if nobody did, but he just stood out because he just stood up straight and was taller than everybody. So when there was a moment in the play that everybody played other characters and they were dressed up in masks and all that, I could still pick out which guy it was. And I just didn't want people to go, oh, yeah, that's Isha, or it's the same guy, or to easily pick me out. And I just like changing whatever and using whatever I have to change into something else so I can tell that story. I think that's the essence of what I pursue, that and delivering the text.
Oh, I love that. I could listen to you talk about that for ages. Just in case a casting director or someone's listening, how many accents can you do and how many languages can you speak? And what are they?
Accents, I am so happy and confident to say that I think any accent is attainable with the right training, the right amount of time, and a good coach, which I have. It just takes time and training.
Yeah.
Lord knows about Boston. I don't know, but I think it all should be attainable. And I might make mistakes. I can point out 2 or 3 projects where I'm like, oh my God, I messed up or whatever. But I'm getting better and better. And I think it should all be attainable. My goal is more to get it to the point where I can easily do it well. So if I get booked, I can really go in and do it really, really well. But to step away from it and to find other things that I can use to morph and to change, so you don't become that accent guy. You just become an actor who changes.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great. So I was just going to say, I think it's a great skill set. That one, even if you're an actor and you have these amazing skill sets where you can just go through various accents, even if you are known as the accent guy, that also means you're a great actor who can do accents. Do you know what I mean? Not many people can do accents, and the American ones, seems to be the big focus. But to be able to do all the various different ones that you've done will just give you such an advantage in terms of that you won't be discriminated against if you can't do this role. Because acting, for example, they like to put you in a box, and you're making that box as big and wide as possible, so that way that they can't say no, you can't audition or you can't get this role because of blah 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 blah, all the silly reasons that we hear. So I feel like it gives you more versatility as an actor to be able to book jobs as well.
Yeah, I don't know. There's also a thing of you're an artist and you need to have a signature. So I don't know. It might not also be a bad thing to be known for something, and I hope that mine would be that I could change and do justice to text and characters. What I will say though, every accent is in English. It's not a different language. The English language is at the base of it. And there's tricky things to the English language, which is not my first language. So there are actors who are Australian, who are American, British, who understand a lot of the basics of that language and have it ingrained already. I don't have that. So yeah, that's the continuous growth and battle that I'm working on.
It's interesting. I did exchange many years ago when I was at school in France, and they were learning basic English. And I genuinely had no idea what the teacher was teaching. English is my only language. I could at one stage speak a tiny bit of French. I haven't spoken it in years. And it was like I don't know how, it was like old grammar that I've never seen, or maybe I just knew because we didn't get taught it. And all these kids were like, kind of like, they were asking me about this. And I'm like, I have no idea what this is. And I feel like potentially some people coming to learn English as a second language, there's also some advantages in that you could learn the grammar really well, because I don't feel I learned grammar very well. It just kind of is. Does that make sense? Like, I had never seen how she was teaching the language. It was just like a different way of approaching the language. And I feel like they had a deeper understanding at the basic level than I did, as ridiculous as that sounds.
I don't know, man. I got kicked out of school. No, seriously.
No, I saw that, but I assumed that you came back because you've done all this studying, or...
Yeah, but so my first high school, I got kicked out because I was PlayStationing too much and not able to focus. Like, I was the guy who got where we're from, it's, between 1 and 10, and I got like a 1 and by cheating. And then the teacher was like, for this one time, you get to do it over. And I studied and I still got a 1, which is the equivalent of an F. Um, and there were a lot of languages in there because, you're in Europe, so you get multiple languages. Um, in that first school, it all didn't go that well, especially not with stuff like Latin and Greek, which is still normal to get there. I get it's amazing, but I wasn't the best at it.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm saying this is that later on, I realized I like math. I think in English you call it differently, but it's like higher math or the one with all the formulas.
Yeah.
Algebra, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I had a feeling that algebra is comparable to languages. There's a formula in these languages that if you kind of understand it, you can apply it, and then you can learn a new language quickly. And that understanding comes from if you learn a couple different languages, if you know a second one or go for a third, you're like, and then these things click together. I like to make connections. That helps me a lot.
No, I think that's a great way of being able to see something, and then you can see with other languages the similarities. It's a unique way of looking at it. But also, question to you is, how the hell from, being kicked out of school did you get your master's? And, people actually, the real question is, sometimes we can feel like we're, and I had this experience that when I went to a new school, I'd learned different. I didn't learn core curriculum. So when I went to like a mainstream school, I couldn't do the test, and because I never learned it before, so I thought I was an idiot. And then later on in life, I realized, no, I just wasn't able to do that type of test because I didn't know it. But I did at that stage not feel clever. I would love to know what you were thinking if you, you're getting a 1. You're obviously very bright, and to be able to do so many different things, and even getting your master's later on, did that impact your sense of self, or what you thought about yourself, leaving school and not doing as well in that stage? Or was just...
Yeah, I had a horrible time at elementary and high school until I switched schools in high school when I was, I don't know, 15 or something, or 16. And then I had an amazing time at the other high school, and that kind of motivated me to work harder as well. So I just did that.
Because it's very interesting when we kind of told that, we're not good at something, that can impact especially a young person's like mental well-being or sense of self, in that I'm not smart, I'm a failure, I'm all of these different things, and that we can carry that with us. But it sounds like you didn't really let that impact you, or once you kind of made that change to go to a different school, you were willing to work on yourself, even at a young age, to realize, I'm actually more capable than they told me or I told me. Was there any of that, or you just went to a different school and you realized, you can actually change in a sense?
I don't know. I think sometimes when people go through those difficult times, it creates character. You might not know it in the moment, but that will help you later on. Yeah. Growing up, I never thought I was, ugly or whatever, but I couldn't get arrested. I couldn't get a girlfriend or whatever, or no girl to like me in elementary, high school, whatever. Like I was just the weird kid, the chubby kid. I remember like on that first high school, at some point there was a bunch of popular kids, and one guy was like nice or something. He asked this girl like, yeah, but why don't you like Isha? What's wrong with Isha? Like he saw something that nobody else saw type thing.
Nice.
And I'm standing next to the vending machine, I just put my money in and gotten my Twix out of it, and then this girl doesn't answer and then walks over and just takes her finger and slowly like pushes it into my tummy through all the like
God,
the fat that was there. And I was just like, okay, looking at it, and she walks back. I was like, that's my answer. Yeah, that was the saddest Twix that I ever ate.
Wow.
It was great. Tasted great, but,
Well, you've obviously... Yeah.
Payback was sweet, not gonna lie. But,
in terms...
yeah, I don't know. I just, like, I don't know. I'm wondering. if I have this like vengeance at life thing that like I'm pursuing something that I need to get because I didn't have it, and I don't know. But yeah, that was a different story when I met that girl later on when I had gone through a growth spurt and sports worked out and now I had a six pack and this girl was like, "Oh, I think you're cute." I'm like, "Ah, hey."
Uh,
Yeah, it was bad. Um, yeah, this girl really liked McDonald's for whatever reason, and I had a McDonald's, one of those like not gift cards, but one of those paper like discount things where you can get a burger for like
yeah, yeah, like the
a dollar
coupon.
or a euro
Yeah.
less. Yeah, a coupon. I had a coupon, and she's like, "Oh, I like you," and she was talking to me, and mind you, I was like 14 or something. I was like, "Well, I don't know. I had this McDonald's coupon." So
Oh, what a player you were.
I don't know how one went from the other, and I offered it. She's like, "Yeah, I'll take it." I was like, "Well, dance for me," and then I don't know. I was like 14, and this girl was dancing for me with this
Dancing for the
McDonald's
coupon.
coupon in in the cafeteria. And I was like, "All right, here, take it." And that was like my payback. I don't know. My ego needed it at the time, I guess. Weird
No,
story.
I get it. And it's how you use these experiences. Is like we're not advocating bullying whatsoever, but I feel like with your mindset, and there was also a quote where, of yours, I'm butchering it, where life kind of gives you apples. It was a longer quote. And it's up to you to realize whether the apple is good or bad for you. And so it sounds like from that example, although not advocating bullying whatsoever, not advocating what she did, it sounds like she kind of pushed you in a direction. When you had your growth spurt, you obviously like been going to gym and working out and exercise, that it potentially pushed you in a more positive direction for you, even though that came out of an experience that we're not advocating for. And so that with time, it sounds like you're able to look at these let's say lessons or challenges and see how you've grown as a person. Do you have that mindset, or am I putting words in your mouth?
No, I fully agree. I think actually that moment, if I remember correctly, was before I changed school. So all that change hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And I don't like the word bully, but I think I was picked on quite a lot in elementary, to the point that everybody knew about it in high school as well, that first high school. And I think up until the first grade of high school, when I got to the second grade, it's bad. But like, I think the first week or two, I was like, all right, now it's payback time, and I was bad to some people. But I think that literally lasted a week or two. And I'm like, why? What's wrong with me? This
That's
is
pretty
not
quick.
normal.
The bullying mindset can continue for years, and to be realized, we all have a shadow side. We all have like negativity. Some people don't have that realization, and to kind of like catch it there and then, it's pretty impressive as a young person to not continue the cycle of abuse in this sense.
I guess I agree. I think the thing in my case is I wasn't bullied. I was picked on. We had a very weird setting growing up. Uh, the first elementary was, there was a group of kids there that kind of picked on the weaker ones. It was a really weird setting, right? So there was one kid in a wheelchair, and there was one kid pushing the wheelchair. And so the kid in the wheelchair, everybody said, "Oh, cool," I mean, not cool, but it's a sad thing that you're in that state. So they would do everything for him. And the one pushing the wheelchair was like absolute, oh man, this kid, oh. To this day, when I see him, I'm like, I don't know what your parents did, man, but gee whiz, But
Got some work.
he would use the excuse of the kid in the wheelchair, to pick on the weaker ones, and then they had a choice. Either you got picked on or you joined the bigger group. I didn't want to be a part of that toxic group, and I didn't like getting picked on. Um, so I was, I think, probably the heaviest / strongest kid in class. I just couldn't keep up with them, like running wise. So it was just always the entire group against me.
Yeah.
But I fighting all of them at some point. It just meant that I was a loner. That's the thing. And from that, I learned just to do you, and be content in who you are. You don't have to conform to anybody else. And that has really helped me out in different situations.
I think that's the number one lesson in the world is about embracing yourself, the good, the bad, and realizing that you're okay. Most people don't learn that in life. It's still something like I'm still like going through, everyone I know is going through, and to like kind of like realize it early that being unique, not only just from a personal side, which is brilliant, but also like you talked about it from the acting front. What is like kind of your signature? Realizing that like you being you, I'm putting words in your mouth potentially, is like what makes you, or for me, what makes one successful is embracing, kind of the best of ourselves. So you got that part of me from a young age. And I think that is amazing because you carry that with you for the rest of your life about being, it's okay to be you. Yes, we can learn and grow, which is very important, and we could add things to ourselves, but realizing that it's okay to be ourselves, I think that is the number one lesson in life. Do you have thoughts on this? Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're being picked on or bullied, you are living through and surviving and dealing with situations that other people are not. So it's building tremendous character. You will be such an amazing, beautiful, strong person later on. You might not be able to see it right now, but in time, and I would say that to everybody, know that.
Agreed. And, and I think it goes back to what you're saying, you have a choice. You kind of had that choice, like, do you want to be the bully or not be the bully? And to realize that we don't, just because other people have done it to us, that we can still rise above the challenges and kind of like put our hand up and say, no, that's not going to happen to me. I'm going to go in a much better direction. And then that, by you not like going to bullying, that would have changed someone's life, whether you know it or not. And that, we carry that on for the rest of our lives as well. And I think it's great. It's just, this might sound a bit wishy-washy, but like changing the consciousness of the planet by saying no to kind of the negatives is how we all grow, whether you see it or not.
I agree.
Yeah. That all being said, we're going back to the king of the accents. You're in New York. I want to tie this up because there's I got a few more points. You're in New York. You've decided that you want to give this a proper go. What were you thinking in the moment? You're doing a lot of classes, or you're putting a lot of time in the classes. Acting can be for most people I've had on this podcast, it took many years to actually get like full-time regular work. And even then there's been ups and downs. What were you kind of thinking when potentially the money wasn't coming through for a little while? Was that a focus for you, or was it just about being?
Mind you, I didn't grow up wanting to be an actor. So it was more of a 30 years dilemma. I'd been looking for something else for a while. And then this came on my path. And I just realized or noticed or thought I have competitive advantages in this industry. A few. One, I have a way in through modeling. Two, I have the finances at that point, which I had to fight for before, but I have the finances to back up the training. I've been studying people since I was a kid. Like, I can't help my brain to analyze constantly. And I think that's a great thing to work off of as an actor. Mm-hmm. There's the physical part, which I'm used to, and I'm highly, highly competitive. So all these things make that this would be a good career move. So I said, let me just pursue. And it loved me back. So in acting classes, teachers would say, oh, hey, you're doing well, or you did that really well, or I feel like you could work, or you should work, or blah, blah, blah. You hear these little things. So it leaves the breadcrumbs for you to pursue and say, I'm going into this.
Oh, I like that. And as I said, like when there's potentially not a lot of money coming through, was there ever a worry in that sense? Or is it still, you've got the breadcrumbs, that you can do this and you're just going to, you've got that long-term vision that it's eventually going to happen. You can do this. Was that the thinking?
I try not to live off of my acting money because it's such a weird thing, and you can. the job is to audition, and you don't get paid for that. So you might book a job, you might not book a job, you might book one job that finances your whole year or not. It's such a weird thing. So I would say to anybody who's in this, try to live off of something else. So when you then make money in acting, you can reinvest it.
Good advice. And isn't it so strange, like from an audition point of view, that you could, one, it's quite hard to get auditions from what I understand, even the very well established, because there's always like another level. And, you know, you could be doing all of these auditions and you're getting rejected so many, every single person. We've had so many super like high level talent on this podcast, or everyone is. And the constant like no's, and you might, you know, be number 2 or number 3, you just weren't number 1, and that's a brilliant result, but you don't get paid to come number 2 or number 3. And that can be like so disheartening in the sense of, you know, you're still a really good actor, you're getting really close, you just weren't potentially the right person. And that could also be really a massive challenge for a lot of people, realizing that, you know, you can be really good, but you might not be earning a lot of money. That doesn't necessarily mean you're not a good actor. You just weren't number 1. Do you have a take on that?
Yeah, it was a lot. Sorry.
No. I just find it like so unique. You can go out on all of these auditions. Everyone's getting rejected 100 times, thousands of times. You might be, I forgot what it's called, like shortlisted to be in the top 3, which is a brilliant outcome. But at the end of the day, you need to be number 1 to earn the money and get the roles. But some people can be disillusioned with that because they might feel, oh, I'm not a good actor. Yep, I can see some things.
I don't agree. I think there's a place for everybody in this industry. You just need to find what the best way for you is to make your money. I have an old teacher who, she's not old, she's before,
Yeah.
who I don't think has an agent or a manager and has worked every day. You know, she puts herself on stage, she teaches a class, she has different things she performs, has a one-woman show, improv shows, and does different things, worked every day if you can. And in the beginning, way before I went full-time or even acted, I went broke to the point that I didn't know how I was going to eat. And I had to hustle and do all these things to make money. I said, hey, if I can jump in the ring and get paid, cool. Try that. No money, great experiences. I was in London driving sushi on the wrong side of the road, you know, trying to find this address, not having grown up in London, so I don't know where to go. So halfway through the shift, my phone would run out and I would be somewhere off in, you know, the ends of London trying to find my way back to the restaurant. You know, I don't know, I hustle. You know, and from that I learned to be frugal as well.
You answer that a lot better. This is exactly my point in that you're still, you know, there's so many different avenues. We don't necessarily need the casting director to say you're good enough to get this job. You know, you've spoken about so many different examples of how you can be an actor. Even, you know, you said being at like Times Square and acting in front of people. And then also, I think this is really important because it's come up a lot on this podcast, is look for other avenues of money, because very small percent of people are able to long-term earn enough for a living as an actor. And, you know, you gave so many different examples, and I think that's really important, and to say that out loud as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are hoping for that one shot, you know, the thing that gets them in, but I don't think it works that way. You know, you're probably going to book small jobs here and there and build it. And for a long time, you won't be able to live off of it. So find something else that you can live off of, you know? Yeah. And also, I still try this, but when I audition, I just look for improvement in my acting skills. And I believe if I can get up to the level that I'm good enough for these jobs, I will start booking one way or another. And I just always look at the level that I'm at and the people that are at my level. And I ask myself, what do I need to learn or need to get so I can level up?
That is so good, because then you're able to, like, it's not just about money or like booking necessarily. How are my skills growing? Because at the end of the day, you want to do it for a long time, And the skills is what's going to keep you for doing it a long time. Let's just say you booked a job tomorrow and you got $1 billion. That's wonderful, but you love the craft. You want to be doing this for a long time. And what gets you there is skill set and being able to, perform and deliver and understanding it. Also a great and unique take as well.
Yeah, I think there's a thing with that though, that's great skill set and all that stuff. I think also, and that's the beauty of having gone through a modeling career and still going through it, that you also need to keep putting in the work, because laziness can come in, or comfortability, or like, oh, I'm at a certain level now, and then you stop doing the actual work, which you can have all the experience in the world but still show up me. And that's another danger, which I've seen happen to me as well. And then I have to pick it up and put in the work again as a model. So I'm like, I just pray that as an actor, I stay that way. I stay motivated. I stay, crossing my, how you say, dotting my I's and crossing my T's, and that it scares me. But yeah.
Well, I think just having that awareness and, going through the experience from especially the modeling side, like, I don't think you will be that type of person. And we've had plenty of actors and actresses on the podcast where they've hit the highest of highs, and they've kind of ultimately, you never actually go back. Once you've learned and developed those skills, as we kind of like spoke about earlier, it's kind of like muscle memory or comeback. You can't like undo the work. You can be a bit rusty, but once you've kind of done it and, putting in all that work, especially just moving to New York and learning the accents on top of doing other acting training, you don't unlearn it. And I think that's really important to acknowledge as well.
Yeah, but you said in the beginning, we made a joke and you said, oh, I've read everything. Or you seem like you've done a lot of research, and I would really want to commend you on that. That's impressive.
Thank you.
I would also say that probably for an 80-minute podcast, you would need to. What if at some point you have done this so much, or you have so many guests now, or you're so popular that you put in that work less, or you only watch the biggest interviews? Now your quality goes down, even though your skill level and your knowledge has gone up. That's the part that scares me a little.
That actually, I'm so happy because I've actually been thinking about that as well. And I'm glad that you bring that up. I also have this, I use this as a positive fear. There can be like negative fear and positive fear, is that when I do this podcast, it's not about me or how I frame it. It's about you and the listeners. So I feel like I have to I do the most amount of research that I can for every single guest, and I want to, and I'm interested to learn about your story and all of these things. So from that side, I make it about other people. So I feel like that would also be, and obviously, I want to enjoy and all that stuff, but it is something that is a very good question to think about. No matter if you're in the creative arts or whatever, is like, how can I keep on getting better? Because sometimes it can be a trap when we feel we've hit a certain point, because to me, that's the biggest trap. That's what scares me the most in life. And it sounds like a little bit with you, is once we feel we've hit a certain point, to go to that point and then like, well, then that's not enjoying life. That's not enjoying why we've decided to do this. So I feel like that's a little bit similar with you. I know I said a lot, but in terms of, feeling we've reached a certain point, that scares me, because I want to embrace the best that life has to offer. I want to be the best in what I do. And it sounds very similar to you as well.
Thank you. And I think it's amazing that you have such a driving factor. I think that will really help.
You are too kind. What we're going to do to wrap up the podcast is to do a rapid fire segment. So the first thing that springs to mind, but you can take your time. Don't worry about it. I won't comment on them because I will derail them as I always do. So you're ready to rumble?
Yes.
Okay.
Question number one.
Rapid fire question number one. I'm just saying if I missed any points to just tie up anything. Oh, actually, sorry. Before we do it, you mentioned the emotional side of acting as well. You learned to embrace your emotions, and it was like you felt really good exploring those emotions. Was that something that you were doing before, or acting kind of unleashed a new self-awareness within you?
The latter, yes. Acting unleashed a new self-awareness, because you just have to, and I went to a school that really teaches that. And I think the personal growth and dealing with your traumas is just a byproduct, but it's very useful because then you can use those in your work.
Good. Now back to the rapid fire. What has been your special ingredient to work all these years?
Grind. That I'm on a beautiful path that I'm thankful for every day. And if it changes and if it stays the same, I'm just thankful for whatever's out there, the universe and whatever. I'm just thankful that I have that. Those two things.
I love that. Is gratitude something you think about often?
Yes.
Is it like a part of a practice, or is it just kind of ingrained in your system?
No, I don't pray as much anymore. I just say thank you a lot.
Nice. What is one thing we don't know about you?
Oh man, why? I pet dogs. I think dogs are cool. Oh man, the hairs and stuff, and I have to wash my hands afterwards. I think my mom ingrained that. Oh man, I think they're cool from a distance, also close by, but like, oh, gotta wash those hands.
You reminded me of a friend of mine. He had a pet dog and he wouldn't pat the dog because he just couldn't wash his hands that many times in the day. I have a dog. I don't care anymore, so we'll get you a dog.
Wash him.
Yeah,
It's your dog.
No, we do wash the dog. I'm just saying I don't wash my hands every time I touch my dog. Can you imagine I had a dog and I never washed him? I would lose my dog. What brings the best creative content out of you?
Working from the heart. Working from the heart.
Do you have a certain philosophy on life that you follow?
Work hard, play hard.
And you've got a few exciting projects coming up. I think one's called Origin. Can you tell me a bit about it?
Origin is a movie that's based on a writer, Isabel Wilkerson, who won a Pulitzer Prize for her book Caste, which is like the Oscar of writing, and her life. Yes, and her life. Her life was based partially on it was based on some other people. The character that I played, Allison Davis, is one of the people her life was based on. And Allison Davis is a famous scholar, American scholar, who went undercover in the Deep South to study race relations. He pretended to be a sharecropper with his wife, and they were the black couple, and there was a white couple who went to talk to the white community there, and they just did research on how race relations happen in the South. Published a study called Deep South, and that influenced the likes of MLK, Malcolm X, and other greats later on.
Oh, and what was that moment like when you booked the role?
Oh man, I got the call from Ava. It was like, yeah, Ava wants to talk to you, Ava DuVernay. I'm like, oh snap. Like I didn't know if I'd booked it. It was just like, hey, just wanted to meet you and just talk to you for a second. And I don't know, I guess afterwards my manager was like, yo, I think you booked it, or you booked it. I don't remember. It was just, yeah, that was crazy.
Well, how nice is that feeling? Because imagine she was calling. Did they ever call up to say you didn't get the role, but you did a good job? Or once you got the call, you kind of thought, or you had an inkling that you got it, or you weren't sure?
No, once you get an actual call, that's usually you booked it. Yeah. Otherwise you get an email.
So I want to get more into this. I asked for this is a while ago. One of a potential person to come on the podcast that I was really excited about, and so the management agency called me. I'm like, holy crap! This is especially earlier on, and I was so excited because they organized the call, and they gave me a call to say we really like what you're doing, but it won't work out because I guess Ashley doesn't do podcasts. But I was like, why did you give me a call? That would be so cruel. So I like the email. What? Yeah. So I'm glad that you haven't had any experiences where they call you up to say you didn't get it. Yeah. And so I believe it's coming out soon, right?
The 19th, which I don't know when your podcast comes out.
It will still be out. Yeah, the 19th.
So it comes out 4 days from now. So when
Okay.
this podcast comes out, it might be already out.
We'll make sure that it's still out so people can check it out. And I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen it?
Yes, twice.
Oh, okay. And tell me, when you first saw it, what were you thinking? Because you're going to see it in terms of like the great production, but you're also going to see it in terms of yourself and how you
Oh
performed.
yeah, no, the first time all I saw was myself and other people and their work. I just like start analyzing this calculator starts working up there, and that's all I see.
Yeah.
So I was having a different experience from maybe other people in the room because it was a very small setting. So I would laugh about certain memories on set and be
Oh,
like,
nice.
calculating and beating myself up over other things, whereas other people were crying about what they were seeing in the movie. It was very weird. And the second time, and somebody asked me, like, weren't you affected? I'm like, yeah, but, differently.
Yeah.
And the second time was in a big movie theater, and I was able to enjoy the entire movie, and everybody was in tears again. And
Oh,
me as well.
brilliant. I'm very glad that you had that, and you're going to have many more experiences like that, and especially be a room with the people that you worked on this for, and to everyone being emotional also shows that you put in the work, but more importantly that you're all really proud of this production. I think that's a great feeling, because if you're all saying like then it's not good, but you all felt
Oh, no. Ava DuVernay has a way of telling stories and showing imagery, and her director of photography, some of the actors in there, it was just absolutely, they're up for, I think, every Oscar, how do you call it? Every
like
every
nominee.
Oscar, they're up for
Oh,
every Oscar possibility. So I don't know who might get nominated or who might win what, or I just hope, because there's been such phenomenal working actors on it.
that is awesome. And, that's how you know it's good, when everyone working on it feels something. Because
Yeah.
I've heard of other productions where the people don't care. And, especially the people working on it feel something that just, it shows it's special. So I hope everyone can check it out and everyone can win all the Oscars as well. So we'll go back to the rapid fire. What are you most proud of?
By my family, being able to spend time with them as much as I can.
What is the most embarrassing thing to happen to you on stage, whether it's modeling, fighting, or acting?
Oh,
We've all had many.
No, you have not. Yeah, I don't know. I did bad things on stage. I don't know. I don't know. I'm scared. I guess. Yeah, I'll say I went on stage and tried something that I thought was smart, and my teacher's response was, one time there was a guy that tried to eat a raw chicken on stage, to give shock factor or something. He's like, "Yeah, that's not what it's about, Isha." And I was like, "Okay,
I
yeah."
mean, that's not that bad. I know at the moment it would feel horrible, but we've had people like fall off stage. One person passed out during a performance. We've had,
Oh,
I
I
know,
did that. I passed out in class, and like people stepped over me, and yeah, I've
they
had
stepped
that.
over you and drag your
Yeah, yeah,
body.
yeah, yeah. They thought I was being emotional, in a good way. I've done that.
Uh, yeah, I feel like there was one person that passed out in a play where they closed the blinds on the person, and the people like when you drag the body out or something. Yeah, but I feel like with that advice that you received when you're trying something, you're feeling very vulnerable. Did it impact you in terms of how you perform, or it made you kind of steered you somewhere else, or because that could be quite scary when
Yeah.
you're trying something and they're like, no.
Well, that day, that teacher wasn't there, but I studied with Susan Batson for 3 or 4 years. Like the sweetest old lady, until your acting is bad and she screams at you. She'll give you a beautiful compliment one week, and the next week she'll tell you, "I didn't see an actor today."
That's
And
brutal.
yeah, no, she was traumatizing on the days that she wasn't nice and motherly. No, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. That hurts, and it'll stay with you. But it'll make you just terrified not to do bad acting, and I think that might be a good thing.
I've only done improv classes, and I've done some very bad improv classes of when I've received not to that level. I'm like, oh no, I'm never going to be able to do improv again. And then you just, if you have the mindset that you have, it forces you to, put in the work, be more present where you can, and actually, out of fear, never want to do that again. So, positive drive. If you could gain any skill in the world, which one would it be?
Flying.
Go on.
I would just fly wherever.
Oh, I thought you said lying.
Oh, no, we can do that. We try not to do that. Flying.
I was like, flying, I get that. What would you do if you knew you could not fail?
Take over the world and not let it corrupt me, I guess. I don't know if that's possible. But win an Oscar, be an amazing husband, father, and spend as much time with my family as I can while being thankful for all the simple, beautiful things that I have, being rich and enjoying simplicities.
I like that.
Yeah.
I won't comment on them, but I like that. Something you want to get better at?
Acting.
I feel like everyone never feels they've arrived. I've spoken to so many people. No one feels like they've hit. They always want to get better. And that's kind of like the beauty of acting as well, that it pushes you to want to get better.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like once you feel like you've achieved something, you get stagnant. And that's dangerous. And I feel like the further you get in your career, the less people feel legitimized to comment on your work, which is scary and dangerous. So I just want to get better at acting.
Nice. And you mentioned off air that you do screenwriting. How long have you been doing that for, and what type of stuff do you like to write about?
I've just been writing a story for God knows how many years, and then, maybe 10 years now. And then, at some point acting came into it, and you're like, oh, or my English improved through college, and then acting came into it. And then every time it was first, I wanted to write a book, and then it's like, oh, I can make it a screenplay. And then you have understanding of scripts and characters. And now I'm more like, oh, I just need to write a pilot, and, people around you help you that, friends, my partner, manager, give you advice. I'm like, no, this. And you work on it, more and more becomes something. But whenever I have time off, I just sit and I just write.
Oh.
So even when I'm on vacation, it's like just that.
I look forward to it being released. That would be very exciting. We're getting it out there to the universe. Next time we speak, you're going to win at least a couple of awards on it and get 5+ seasons.
Yes, 3. But yes, I hope so.
We'll take 3. Okay.
Be ready, done, edited, and pitched first, But that'd be great.
Awesome. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
Yeah, if you're not scared to fail and be a beginner, and then maybe that's your ego being in the way, and maybe you want to check that.
What did working with Tyler Perry teach you?
Don't stand in his frame. Yeah, I had a big scene, and he's the director, but also acting with you as Madea, and I proposed to the woman that I love, and then he just screamed at me, not in my frame, you ain't, move. And I had to move out of his frame. But just the sheer possibility of what you can achieve in life. It's just like, oh man, this man had the amount of land that he had, and I think he bought it in increments, not knowing or having the money to do anything more with it, and then he would make more money and do stuff with it. And there's more you can do in life than just be the best at what you can do. You need to be a businessman, and you need to grow that side as well, and that's very, very very impressive.
Yeah, because I think he kind of has a village, from what I've heard, of all these properties, and he's created a set or something like that. Is that what?
Yeah, there's a little village on, like it's a small part of the entire set, mind you, but
Yeah.
it's almost the size of a theme park. But the
Whoa.
little village, yeah, the little village is inside of it, and it has all these different types of houses, villas, expensive ones, cheap ones, and all these houses. Every side of the house has a different front door, so they can shoot it as a different house from each angle, which I thought was amazing. Yes.
Oh, I like that. I like seeing
Yeah.
how he's
Yeah.
multi-talented and business person as well. Favorite scene in Fear the Walking Dead?
Um, there was a table scene where I had an argument with Colman Dolmingo, who plays my husband. Um, yeah, because it was just a beautiful, scene with an argument, and I got to speak German and have my German accent in English. Yeah, I think he did great. It was not easy for him, I think, because he I don't think he had any experience in German but he still did that for that show, which I think is tremendous. Like that, I don't know. That's
Especially when he's been doing it for
uh,
years as well.
yeah, no, but like that's the first season that he spoke German as a character or as an actor. And I think that's a tremendous challenge.
Yeah.
So, and it was a great scene to have with a great actor. So that was my favorite.
Awesome. I was going to say, what was your favorite moment in Fear the Walking Dead? But it sounds like it was that as well.
Yeah.
Anything else I got a lot of, I asked any questions for guests, and there was a lot of like Fear the Walking Dead questions. So it's nice that you've also had a big impact in that regard as well.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite scene. I'm just very blessed to have been in it. The favorite moment is probably when, you're just, I don't know, you're acting and then all of a sudden it's the day when the zombies show up on set and just there's this creepy, weird people just standing around waiting, smoking a cigarette or whatever. And then you go on set with them and then they turn out to be really cool, normal people behind them that have done this for years and help you through it, or being able to wield an axe and a sword or a knife at the same time, just, hacking it into zombies. They're not zombies, they're stunt actors.
Yeah.
Who are really cool. And they're like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Okay, cool. And then they, go into acting, you go into your acting. But it's just a really cool thing to experience.
Was it scary experiencing it when they're like doing the hissing and the moaning or whatever the noise is? Or you know that they're obviously people?
Until you meet them. Once you've met them outside and you start recognizing who is who in the suit, like, oh, hey, what's up? Cool. And then we all get to it,
Yeah.
But before that, it's really weird and really creepy. You'll be on a creepy set in the dark with light shining through the trees on a former plantation, and there's walkers. We call them walkers on the show. There's zombies around, and some, as nice as they are, do weird things. Maybe not knowing that they're in that suit, and therefore it looks a lot weirder. You might see one in a creepy moonlight, smoking a cigarette or sitting on his knees looking like he's praying or something. I don't know, maybe his suit hurt. And so you have to sit that way, but you just walk past him and like, dude, what are you doing? Or it's just, I don't know. It's a very weird thing to experience.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you got to experience that as well. And before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you, what is the one question I should have asked you?
I don't know. I hope that people that want to pursue something similar have found things in here that they can use for their thing. That's the only thing that matters to me in this.
Nice. I think you've given a lot of different tangible, whether it's experience or advice. So that's been brilliant. Before we go, how can people follow you, keep up to date with you, and all of that cool stuff?
Instagram. My name is my Instagram, my first and last name, Isha Blaaker. And other than that, my IMDb, all my new projects are on, and next projects that might happen when they happen. So yeah, and right now it's just back to auditioning.
Amazing. That will be in the episode notes below so people can check them out. Thank you so much. I love your forward-thinking mentality and kind of how you see growth opportunities. This was a real pleasure. And yeah, thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Michael. This was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful interview. You are so prepared. It is calming, soothing, and you feel the respect, and it's easier to share that way. So I think you're doing good work, and I think you should definitely commend yourself on it, or pat yourself on the back.
I love how Isha talks about feeling and how it acts as an inner compass. Often in life, we tend to mull over a decision, but sometimes that can actually prevent us from moving forward. There is nothing wrong with carefully pondering a decision, but sometimes when we know within our heart and being that a decision needs to be made, we need to act. Isha gently encourages us to follow that light feeling. On top of that, being aware and feeling our emotions is a great way to rise above and build self-awareness. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. Following our inner compass takes courage, but beyond our deepest fears lies a world of wisdom to help us conquer them, clearing a new path of possibilities. Danielle Klobuchar. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.